She's tried everything, and her head starts talking. And the meeting begins, and it's got an agenda, right? Daniela, I see you laughing. You've related to it? And the agenda's going, and she's solving problems. But 3 hours have gone by, and now they're in subcommittees, and they're breaking off into work task force, and she's not sleeping. There's middle night awakening where you go to bed, you fall asleep without a problem, then you wake up in the middle of the night, maybe to use the bathroom, but then you cannot fall asleep for the rest of the night. It's over. And when this happens to me, I always have one thought: I'm ruined for tomorrow. I just need Tuesday to end so Wednesday can begin. Because we need sleep to break up the days too, right? This often happens when we drink. Even 1 or 2 glasses of liquor close to bed can make us have trouble. We have no trouble falling asleep. We have trouble staying asleep. Here's one I like to do myself, and that is a great description. I fall asleep on the couch watching TV every night with no problem. It's delightful. I sleep great during that time. After a few hours, I get up in bed and I join my wife, and I cannot fall back asleep the rest of the night. I think to myself, the upcoming day will be ruined. I'll be tired all day. I have a friend, and she pointed to her living room and she said, I fall asleep out there with no problem. And then she pointed to her bedroom and said, and then I go in there and I can't sleep. I knew a woman who also said, I fall asleep with the TV on and then it watches me when I'm done watching it. Here's another one, and I put a picture of the rooster here because it seemed to fit. Early morning awakening. When you fall asleep, fine. You stay asleep for a while, but you wake up way earlier than you'd like to. Makes the day feel really long. You're tired and you don't feel refreshed. Let me get a feeling in the room. Could everybody relate to some of these? Tell me in the chat. Did I miss any? Anyone want to raise their hand and share any that I missed? No? Okay, I'm going to keep going. We've all been there. And look at this woman. She's thinking about romance. She's solving puzzles. She's got her phone out there. She's worried about the time. I think everybody can relate to this picture of what it's like to lay in bed and really want to fall asleep, but not be able to sleep. Sleep is linked to nearly every bodily function, from how well our bodies fight infection to how well we think. So getting a good night's sleep is very, very important to your health. And we're finding, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, really important to longevity. Really important to longevity. In countries where they take siestas or naps every day, it has a very positive health contribution. Andrew Zinchuk of Yale Pulmonology said, I think of every hour of sleep as putting money into a sleep savings account. He adds, if your brain sleep savings account is depleted or overdrawn, it will negatively affect your brain and how you interact in the world. Just to look at some of the impact on our health of sleep. Sleep loss, which is less than 7 hours a night, may have widening effects on the cardiovascular, endocrine, immune, and nervous system, including the following examples: obesity in adults and children, diabetes and impaired glucose tolerance, cardiovascular disease and hypertension, anxiety symptoms, depressive mood, alcohol use, and memory impairment. Can anybody think of any others you want to add that you know of? Maybe in the chat.
I was thinking like restlessness, irritability, like during the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, when you can't sleep at night, 2 o'clock feels exhausting, doesn't it? You go in, you have that cup of coffee, it gives you mileage till about noon. Then you have that second cup of coffee. Now you're on caffeine overload. And look how this cycle goes. And it's going to impact your sleep that night because you've already had too much caffeine too late. And then you got to function. And does it impair your job performance, your just overall enjoyment of life? I'm going to pause just for a moment to see if there's any questions because I don't want to miss them. Any questions coming up for people? Donna added cranky. Ariel says we should move to Italy to catch up. I just got back from Spain, where Jeff and I were a month ago, and definitely there was still the siesta in the culture, and I liked it a lot. Any questions coming up for my host that you see?
No other questions. Oh, when we nap, what is an acceptable time to nap?
So, Jeff, I'll answer that question to you. Usually, probably they're saying no more than 30 minutes. Otherwise, you'll start going into a deep sleep. And then you'll ruin your sleep that night. So, just like the 10-minute power nap to 30 minutes. Otherwise, it's too long. Okay. Is it true that coffee before a nap helps? Coffee before a nap would wake me up. I think you have to go by your body. Some people have a paradoxical effect from coffee. Any students in the room want to say what a paradoxical effect is?
Hmm.
It's when your body does the opposite, like with ADHD. Some people who have ADHD, stimulants calm them down. It's a paradoxical effect. Some people, I know my sister, coffee calms her down. So I'd tell you to ask yourself what works for my body. If I had a cup of coffee, I'm good for probably being up for about 7 hours. And Marva, you say coffee calms you down. It's different for everybody's body. I would not recommend caffeine to sleep, but some people don't have an impact from caffeine. Um, Ariel, you asked, doesn't a short nap cause a headache? Only in some people. Some people it refreshes tremendously. I find like a lot of older people, 50 and over, probably 10 minutes can really refresh them a lot. Let me see if there's any others coming in. So we're not always clear what triggers insomnia, but here's some things that it's often associated with: stress and anxiety, a poor sleeping environment, such as an uncomfortable bed, or a bed that's too light, like too much light around, a bedroom that's too light, too noisy, hot or cold, either too hot or too cold. Lifestyle factors such as jet lag, shift work, or drinking alcohol or caffeine before going to bed. People who do shift work, pilots, flight attendants. Oh, and I'm going to get, sorry, Donna, about the 50. I'm over 50. And I'm going to get into the electronic devices. I got slides on those. People who do shift work, who are on call, pilots, flight attendants, nurses. Many of us work jobs where we work into the night. It will definitely impact you. I like to get all my papers graded every week. If I stay up too late grading, I'm ruined for the night. Or even just working on my computer. Eating too much before bed can be very problematic, especially as we age. And it can also cause heartburn, which will keep us up. Mental health conditions such as depression, PTSD, anxiety. Physical conditions such as heart problems, sleep disorders, and long-term pain. Hormonal changes cause sleep trouble. A lot of people who pre-menopause had no trouble sleeping, but post-menopause will notice trouble sleeping or during menopause. And I put that here. And certain medications, as well as recreational drugs, can impact sleep wellness. So this goes to the point Ann just put in the chat about technology and sleep. Always remember this. Like lights, brands are either on or off. If you're looking at technology, it's going to wake you up. I know so many people very unromantically take their cell phones to bed with them and they lay in bed. One night I was laying in bed and I'm Googling odd things like, can quinoa get you sick? I found out that quinoa can actually produce a poisonous gas that can get you sick. Do I need to research this the night before I have to go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning? No, it kept me up thinking about grains. It's totally useless. But when your brain is on, brains are primitive. They don't recognize the difference. A lot of people tell me I relax with my phone or my reading or my technology in bed. You're killing your sleep. For optimal sleep hygiene, avoid technology such as cell phones, computers, laptop, iPad, television, and reading in bed at least 30 minutes before going to sleep. And notice I wrote at least 30 minutes. A lot of people will say to me, I love reading in bed. And of course you do. Beds are comfortable, they're cozy, books are enjoyable, but it will wake up your brain. And I see that Raisa just wrote, I am guilty of this. Many of us are. A lot of us grew up. I know I had to read a book in bed. It was my way my parents wanted me to be a reader. It worked. But it's stimulating. It worked for me when I was 7. It doesn't work at 53. It's going to keep me up. I'll find myself even dreaming about the characters, thinking about the book, and just being stimulated. Let me move us a little further. I was taught in my training program that beds are for 2 things: sleeping and maybe a little bit of romance, and nothing else. Those are the only 2 things we should be using our beds for. Yet, interestingly, if I go on a tour of houses, which I like to do, you'll see every bedroom will have a TV in it. But if you look at that, in most homes in this area, we probably have more TVs than people. I know my house does. But yet it's keeping us up and impacting our sleep. But we get sucked into it because it's so comfortable. If you want solutions to your sleep problems, I think you need to always start with a physician for an exam, and particularly somebody with expertise in sleep medicine. If you have an underlying medical sleep condition like narcolepsy or apnea, all the cognitive therapy in the world isn't going to cure that. And there are medical interventions like CPAP machines, certain medications that need to be frontline when there is a medical issue. I'm going to go into some suggestions, though, to help people sleep. And to do that, I'm going to stop my share for a moment. While I put up my other share, are there any questions that people have to look at for a moment?
Ariel had a question of how many hours should there be between dinner or snack before bed?
It depends how big dinner is, right? And I'm having a little problem here. Let me answer the question. I would say give yourself at least 2 hours. And if you know you're going to bed, try to eat less. And should I take the questions that I see? Though here's my recommendation, Ariel. Like when I teach my licensure class, I always tell people eat a little protein at night, like a few nuts or cheese, or if you eat meat, maybe a little something like cold cuts, because it won't spark your sugars either. Because we want to watch sugar too when we're sleeping. If you had ice cream, how many people have been guilty of having ice cream before bed? What's it do to you? All right, what's it do to you? Some people unmute and chime in.
I'm like a kid in a candy store.
You're hyper. It makes you hyper.
Sugar
Yeah.
rush.
Sugar rush. You're loading your body with that glucose that's going to keep you up.
Gives
Right?
me as much energy as you have.
It gives you as much energy as I have. Don't you normally have as much energy as I have?
No.
If I
I'm
have
always
ice cream
energetic.
at night, how soon before bed should I have it?
How much ice cream?
Yeah, I mean, how soon before bed should I have ice cream if I have it?
Well, the first thing I would ask you, are you lactose intolerant?
No.
I would say no more than like a half a cup.
Uh-huh.
Also, you have to ask your physician, I don't know, this is a personal question, but think about this. But do you have any issues with blood sugar that you need to think about that it could compromise anything?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Makes sense.
But okay, so I'm diabetic, and sometimes I have to watch my sugar level.
Mm-hmm.
And so my doctor, like what they tell me, like if I can't like sleep for long period without making sure something went in my stomach before, because
Mhm.
then it
Yeah,
gets
you'll
low.
crash. You'll crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're probably not telling you to eat ice cream, are they?
No, oh no, 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 no.
Exactly.
Yes,
I mean, I
I know,
love the idea, but
I know.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no, she does. She's
it's
very, yeah, what
yeah,
I
it's out of my
can.
scope of practice, but definitely stick. I would, be cautious about how much sugar is before bed.
Yeah,
We all know what a
yes.
sugar rush is. I mean, how many of us like a donut at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or a Snickers bar to pep us up? Look at the
Snickers.
commercial. What was the commercial for Snickers? It really keeps you satisfied. What was the commercial?
It's just
Do you
like
remember it?
Snickers satisfies or something.
Satisfies
you're not you when
you,
you're
right?
hungry, and you're not you when you're
Yeah.
hungry, and yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like
think
Snickers is
about
like
that.
Mm,
Yeah.
meditate. Okay.
There's a really good question here. Let me go through some of them. Tyler asks, with all individuals needing a different amount of sleep per night, what's the best way for someone who struggled with insomnia most of their adult life to figure out the optimal time for themselves? To take that question, I would ask you, what makes you feel best during the day? If you go online, I'm going to put this in there. I'm going to give you a resource, Tyler.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is called an Epworth. Oh, no. Give me one sec. I'm going to put it to everyone in the meeting. If you Google Epworth sleep scale, you're going to get a sleepiness scale. And what I would tell you to do is start keeping a sleep diary. And every day do the Epworth sleep scale and get a sense for what works for you for the hours that you need. Am I making sense? That
Yeah,
measures
that's great.
sleepiness. Yeah. So this way you could become your own detective and you could determine what works best for your body. I'm pretty hyper. My energy levels are high. I need between 7 or 8. But when I was in high school, I needed a lot more. I was always tired. Why? Now that's interesting. Some of you may have adolescent children or grandchildren. There are 2 big growth phases during life: infancy and adolescence. Part of the reason teenagers sleep so much is they're going through a growth spurt equivalent of that of babies. And that's why they're always so tired. Yet we always label them as lazy or sleeping too late. Their bodies need it. I would never say to an infant, you're in bed too much. And so I'm very cautious of that when I work with kids in my practice, that their parents understand that they really need sleep and how important that sleep is to them. Oh, I think I'm not going to say the name. SARI, I think, got activated. I don't know why. Tyler, did I hit your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure. And let me look here at some other questions. I need to get my show off my laptop here. Hold on one sec. So that I can go back to all of you and answer some questions. And more will be coming in. Daniela, you asked, is it true that you can never catch up on sleep? And the answer is no. Go back to that quote that I had from the pulmonologist from Yale. You actually can have a little sleep bank where you start to get caught up on sleep. So let's say on Thursday you don't sleep well. I would tell you, try to bank some hours on Friday. Give yourself a little space. And let's not forget to talk about the psychological benefit of sleeping. I need my days to end. Can anybody relate to that? I need Thursday to become Friday. I need Friday to become Saturday. I need closure. I need it psychologically. I need to tune off and I need to tune out. For those of you who know me well, might think that doesn't sound like me, but I do. And so do you. And so we need that psychological recharge of sleep, or we never feel a break. If you meditate regularly, Ira asks, can you do with less sleep? The truth is, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. My gut would be no, because there are things that happen biologically during sleep that probably don't during meditation. What I find is, and I was taught this, that people who meditate tend to sleep better because when they lay down at night, they start meditating. So they're able to if they're skilled meditators, they can shut their thoughts down. Meditation is a great way to begin to treat sleep problems. Did I hit your question, Ira? Okay. And if a person told me they had trouble sleeping, I would highly recommend meditation. And then I would say to them, okay, what did you learn in your meditation? Now practice that at night. Going through the questions. Ariel writes, if devices and reading are out before bed, what's the best option? You want me to tell you what I think you should do? Take a hot bath, a hot shower, and lay down and let yourself relax for a bit. Talk to somebody. Be calm, be still. I purposely leave my phone in the living room. I love connecting with people. I might be one of the most social people that many of you know, but you need to tune out. The person that I'm married to in the room for many years is nodding at this. You need to tune out. And I think allow yourself the calm and the quiet. Mindfulness, Marva, you're absolutely right, helps. Renata asks, what's the ideal amount per night? 7 to 9 for adults. Donna's writing here about the benefit of Ariel. I know. Ariel, unmute and tell me what's so hard. Where are you? You wrote, I know it's so hard. Hi, Ariel. Good to have you back.
Yes, it's been quite a long time.
Welcome back.
It's really difficult because I'm so used to having my devices. Like it's become habitual. Like I have sometimes
it's
I
very
fall asleep
habitual.
with my phone. Like I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one whose like phone fell on their face because you're falling asleep.
Are your arm hurts from holding it?
Well, no,
Right.
that's how you learn to put it in the right position because I read on my phone at night. That's what it is. Like, so I'll read the Bible at night and I'm like tired, but I'm like, man, it's just like when I'm invested, I'm like just a little more, and then I end up falling on my face.
Well,
But
look
then
at this.
I'm just so used to it though.
The reading is stimulating you.
Yeah.
Right? Are you preparing too for your Bible study class?
No, just sometimes for my own just personal reading time.
So you're reading, it's stimulating, you're into the story, you're into what it means to you. Your brain is online as it is at noon at that moment.
You're not wrong.
I know, right? I love when people say that to me. You're not
it's
wrong.
true.
Oh, you're invested, and I think it means a lot to you to read that. It's
Mhm.
personal.
Yeah.
Here's what I would tell you: go to the store, buy those old Bibles that you see the church ladies with the post-its and the highlight. You know, can you picture it?
Yeah.
I remember when I lived in Philadelphia and Marvis last week. I see these ladies on the bus, old ladies. They had their Bible with the post-its ready for Wednesday night with the highlights. I want you
Yes.
to go and buy one. I want you to keep it in the living room. I'd like you to have a meeting with your Bible and say, "You are not allowed in my bedroom." Okay.
I have a corner that I have the actual physical Bible. Like I have a woman's Bible, but I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, but the phone is so accessible. You're like, okay, I'll go to
But
bed.
the
But you're right.
light is keeping you. The light is keeping you up. The light and the
Yeah.
stimulation of the blue light is keeping you up, as is the stimulation of the reading material. You need a half-hour break.
Yeah.
If spirituality matters to you, meditate and pray for that half hour.
Yeah. That's good. That's a
Read
good
your
option.
passage, pick a theme from the passage, meditate and pray on that night.
Well, I like that.
This way, if you want to stay in that spiritual place that the Bible brought you, bring it in the bedroom with you. Just leave the book in the other room.
I like
And
that a
I'd be
lot.
excited to see where your meditation takes you.
True. Thanks, Dr. David.
You're welcome and good to have you back. Todd Marshall, you asked, what about music before bed? And I know you are a musician as well. I think it's fantastic. I think music is soothing. It calms us down. I don't know if I'd listen to heavy metal.
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes I like to practice before bed too.
I would think that would be stimulating because you're working. When you practice, you do drums, right?
Yeah, but I don't do drums before bed, just the piano.
All right. I think that's stimulating because your brain is in an active mode. Go back to my light bulb. Brains are on or off, and your brain is probably in an active mode because you're the same way Ariel's reading her Bible and thinking. You're highlighting probably in your mind. You're practicing different things, right?
Mhm.
Listen
Yeah,
to the
that
music.
makes sense.
Listen to the music.
Right. Okay.
But don't start. Now, you're a musician. Let me ask you, do you do this sometimes when you listen to music? Do you start playing it with your hands?
No, I'm not that active when I listen.
Do you direct? There's somebody in my gym, and I think he's a conductor because I watch him in the gym. I refer to him as the turtle because he looks like a turtle. And he conducts the whole time he's working out. Don't tell him. The whole time and I would tell him, don't do that in bed. You're turning your brain on, turtle. Keep it down. Just listen. Does that
Yeah,
help?
so it sounds like mostly relaxing music before bed, so you don't slip
Relaxing
into your
before
mind.
bed, yeah. For those of you of my generation, I listen to Stevie Nicks every night before bed because I love her voice and I like feel it in my bone marrow. So there's something about Stevie Nicks that I just love. So every night in my house, you will hear Stevie Nicks. Jeff, you asked, just a point of discussion. You talk about the loss of a partner and how that may impact sleep patterns, and quality of sleep. That's really, really important. I have worked with a number of widows and widowers or couples who can no longer sleep in the same bed for medical reasons or maybe relational conflict. The bed becomes a place of grief. I remember working with a woman and she had lost her husband. And I said, tell me about your bedroom. And she said, facing my bed is a huge portrait of my husband. I said, you need to move it because it was triggering grief. And she wasn't a new widow. She had been a widow for like 25 years. And she stayed on her side. I noticed both my mother and my father-in-law, both widow and widower, stayed on their sides of the bed, having lost the spouse. And I think you really need to do a lot of work around grief because I think one of the places, I well up to saying this, one of the places that I think people feel the loss of a partner the most. You know, we do more than make love in beds. We do more than sleep in beds. It's often the place where couples talk and spend time and share humor and share experiences, and a place of intimacy. And I think that absence is very profound with spouse loss. Thank you, Jeff, for that question. Danielle, white noise is great. And I'm going to activate this in all of your houses. You could all say, Alexa, white noise, which in many of your houses I've just activated. You could also say green noise, which is now a new thing that we've been listening to. And I believe green noise is like nature sounds. I listened to a thunderstorm the other night and rain. It made me have to go to the bathroom, but I thought it was kind of neat. And definitely do Stevie Nicks tonight and send me a verbal thank you. Danielle, you do brown noise sometimes?
It's
what's
like
that
airplane.
Airplane?
Yes.
Very
I
good
love
unless
it.
you have a
It's
flying
like
phobia.
airplane or like fan, like that. Yes, like that. Very
The
cool.
fan is huge, Todd. I cannot sleep without moving air above me. And for those of us in Florida, I think we really need the moving air. I'm going to take a moment. Pink is too. You've tried Pink and brown noise? I thought you meant Pink, the performer, Ann. I'm going to take a moment and go back to my PowerPoint. I've given some suggestions, but I'd be remiss if I didn't go to sleep CBT. And hopefully this is presenting acceptably to everybody. Here's some techniques to help you sleep. Can everybody see this okay?
Yes, you can see.
Okay, good. All right, sleep diary, and I mentioned this to Tyler a few moments. The underlying idea is that monitoring of sleep in itself can be therapeutic. If you've kept a food diary, unless you have an eating disorder, I'm a little cautious on them because they could be shame invoking. But when we bring awareness to somebody, to something, it often alleviates our complaints through a reduction of sleep-related anxiety. A lot of times it feels like we don't get enough when we actually might. If you're having trouble sleeping, one of the first things I would tell you to do is get a diary and measure how much you're sleeping. And now we have these great things like Fitbits and Whoops and things you can get on your wrist to measure your sleep. Stimulus control and sleep restriction. If you're really having trouble sleeping, try this. Go to bed only when you're tired. Limit activities in bed to sleep and sex. Get up the same time every morning, even on the weekend. This is really key. A lot of us will let ourselves get up every day at 7, to be at work at 9, and then on Saturday, we sleep till 11, and you've blown it. Or for me, I take my Saturday afternoon, what I call my Shabbos Schlep in Yiddish, Shabbos Schlep in Yiddish. It ruins the whole night if I sleep 2 hours on a Saturday, and then I've been ruined the whole week. And then I'll take something like Benadryl to sleep, and then it'll make me groggy, and it's a domino effect. If sleep doesn't occur in 10 minutes, get up and go in another room. And I reinforce this all the time. Do not stare at the ceiling and the clock. If you're not falling asleep in 10 minutes, get up. And I always say, watch something boring. Don't put on something good. Find an infomercial. Find a house and garden channel where they're just rebuilding a house. Not something that catches your interest, but something that actually bores you. Because remember, brains are on or off, and I want to bore your brain and get it to go to sleep. Paradoxical intention. I wrote here, get the patient, or try to stay awake when you get into bed. Try as hard as you can. The premise is the opposite will happen. The instruction to stay awake will reduce your anxiety about falling asleep, which will help you to relax. Does that make sense to people? And
Yes,
saying
it's
yes.
like reverse
Tell yourself,
psychology on your brain.
it's totally reverse psychology. I'm going to stay up. I'm not going to fall asleep. Often, if I can't sleep, all I say is, oh God, I can't sleep. Tomorrow's going to be ruined. I can't believe this is happening. Why is this happening to me? I shouldn't have had Starbucks at 4. And then I go down a parade of terribles. Try it this way. Say, I'm staying awake. I'm staying here as long as I can. And you'll be shocked. The opposite may happen. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, I'd be remiss, this is what I do in my practice, if I didn't talk about CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. If you feel you'd like to pursue psychotherapy to treat your sleep concerns, consider finding a therapist who's been trained in CBTI. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia focuses on the connection between how we think, how we cope, and how we sleep. The therapist will help you identify thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that are contributing to your trouble sleeping. They're going to do cognitive interventions, ways to help you restructure your thoughts that aren't helpful about sleep. The first thing I will ask you if you come to my office is, tell me about your relationship with your bed. What do you remember about your bed as a child? Have any horrible things ever happened to you in a bed? When you lay in bed at night, what's it like for you? Oh, I go and I think I'm not going to be able to sleep, and it becomes such an argument in my head. Then we got to change how you think about your bed and about sleep. Behavioral interventions, like the things I just went over, stimulus control, sleep restriction and compression, and trying a whole bunch of relaxation techniques, hot baths, herbal teas. Again, herbal tea only if you don't have trouble with your bladder. If you have trouble with a lot of urination in the night, I'm not going to recommend that you have tea before bed. Psychoeducation. The therapist will teach you a lot about thoughts, feelings, and sleep, and how they all come together. I'm going to take a moment now for a few more questions because I just realized that I probably over-prepared, and I'm going to escape from this. And Donna, if I could ask you to see if there's any questions coming in or if people want to raise your hands, if you could take that over for a minute, that would be great.
Yep, let me see if there are any others.
And
Or we
real
just want to talk for a few minutes.
Well, before we jump into questions, if everyone can please take a quick moment to complete a brief survey and let Dr. David know what you thought about his workshop, that would be amazing. I just dropped the link in the chat. Your feedback helps us know what we're doing right and the kind of events you want to see in the future from the Robin Rubin Center. So thank you so much for your help, and questions continued.
And I just put in the chat about a link to about 15 different techniques you can do at home to help your sleep. Does everybody see that link? It's to the Sleep Foundation of America. Oh, Adriana, I'm like the guru of CPAPs. I would love to talk to you about CPAPs. Everybody can see just so I get some nods, can everybody see my link to the Sleep Foundation?
We see it.
You see it? Click on it if you want it for later and go through it. Adriana, would you mind unmuting and we could talk for a moment? So I can see you. Good evening. Tell me about your thoughts. What are you thinking about? How to use a CPAP at night?
Good evening. Yeah, I've been using the CPAP for a few months, a good amount of time, and I've tried different masks. Using the one that I like the best, but still it causes me to wake up several times in the night. And I asked the pulmonologist to reduce the air pressure, and they reduced it once, but I feel like it's still too high. So, when it ramps up to the full pressure, usually it wakes me up and I end up just using it for, an hour, sometimes at most like
Not
3
good
hours.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you on a ramp? Is your sleep is on a ramp? It's not automatically on?
Yeah.
So you have the ramp, which is a good step. Did you talk to the respiratory therapist about it?
Yes, I would have to make an appointment with the specialist, but I could do that.
Where I got my CPAP from, they come to my house. And if you call there's respiratory therapists on staff. One thing you might want to ask them is, I'm wondering if you're being woken up by leaks.
Yeah, that's what's waking me up. Yeah.
All right, your seal is off. Your mask isn't fitting your face, is my guess.
I tried
Has
all the
anybody
other sizes and I'm using the small size mask, but all the other sizes were too big on my nose, but this one leaks around my mouth. So like I just haven't been able to find the right size.
here's what I would do. I would book an appointment I wouldn't go with a pulmonologist. I would go with a respiratory therapist.
Okay.
Call your CPAP company. Go with the respiratory therapist. Ask them to pay you. Did they deliver the machine to your house?
Yes.
Ask them to come out.
Pick it up. I had to go pick it up, but I'll call them.
Ask them to come out.
Okay.
And do a visit and have them do a fitting with you and ask them if you can get a custom made mask.
All right, I'll look into that.
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Does it cause you anxiety to have the mask on your face at all?
No, it just, it makes me angry.
The noise?
It's like, yeah, if it keeps leaking, it keeps waking me up, it ruins my sleep.
Absolutely. So yeah, you need to work with them to get the right mask, and they can do that for you. But start with the respiratory therapist over the pulmonologist is what I would do.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I'm glad you brought up CPAP. I have a lot of times working with people where this is not comfortable to people. And we've got to work on this. Can have a lot of meaning to people and can be very complex. And so having your face covered is something that it can be really hard. So I often recommend that people work with their physicians to maybe start on a little bit of a benzodiazepine even to get used to habituating to a mask if it brings up anxiety in you. So let me go through some of the questions here. Todd says, if you can't sleep on the weekends, how can you catch up on missing sleep? How can you, if you can't sleep? Todd, if you unmute, you have trouble, your sleep trouble extends into the weekend too?
Well, I find I sleep better on the weekends because I have more hours that I could sleep and I have to get up early. So that's how I catch up. Of course, during the week, I can't sleep as many hours at night because I have
work
to get up
full
early.
time. I would tell you to go to bed earlier.
Okay.
There's something beautiful that First Nations people did, or Native Americans, as they used to be called. They had what they called, they would change their sleep schedules based on the sun to get the optimal amount of light to avoid seasonal affective disorder, which they didn't name at the time, but they would literally base their sleep on darkness. And so did most of our ancestors because they didn't have electricity. They didn't stay up like I did. The other night, we stayed up till 4 a.m. watching Three Body Problem on Netflix. I fantasized about putting Botox in my eyes to watch one more episode. Our ancestors didn't have Netflix. So when the lights went out, they went to bed. They were probably healthier than us for that. Todd, try going to bed earlier on the weekends, on the weekdays,
Okay.
if your schedule allows for it.
Yeah, I'll try that.
Hi, Raisa. You wrote, I'm a former student. It's nice to see everyone. Good to have you back. Oh, you have to leave early. Thank you. Okay. Other questions, other things people have? Any other questions? Sleep is really complex and there's no one answer to it, but hopefully this has gotten us thinking about our own sleep. Rachel, unmute. Talk to me.
I just wanted to know, you may have addressed this earlier,
I'm
but
glad to say anything again.
okay. What happens when, or how can I remedy this? I can fall asleep, I have comfortable temperature.
Yeah.
I turn off my television, I'm sometimes white noise, sometimes not, but I can fall asleep, but then I wake up like 3 hours later.
You have what I call the middle night awakening. If you cannot fall back asleep for more than 10 minutes, get up and do something that bores you in another room, in another chair. Don't do it in your bed.
Okay.
Don't laugh. You know what I do? I go and I watch infomercials. I go into the room and I put on something that's not going to intrigue me. I'm not going to put on a movie because I'll like it, right?
Right.
I'll get into the plot of it. I'll put on something plotless that will bore my brain. Remember, brains are on or off. So I'm going to put on something. I go to usually like TLC and I watch 90 Day Fiance. They repeat, but it repeats. David Simpson's laughing at me. It repeats the same ridiculousness over and over again. So I'm bored. I get bored of it. And that's key to me sleeping. Does that help?
Yes.
But get up. More than 10 minutes, I want you to get up. Because otherwise you're going to be lying there going, oh, my day is ruined. I can't sleep. This is so awful. Why does this happen to me?
That's right.
Right?
And I'm flipping
Please,
around
I hear you.
and it's a mess.
And you can't find that cool spot on the bed. You can't get it right,
Yes.
right?
Okay,
No, you
I'm
gotta
gonna
get
try
up,
that.
get up. All right.
Okay.
So tomorrow say
Thank
Dr.
you.
David says I gotta get up and go watch TLC and watch ridiculous people marry somebody they just met.
Thank you.
And for that I went to school 10 years, right? I'm glad my parents paid for my education. Daniela.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Everyone. I just wanted to share a weird, quirky thing regarding sleep because you had it listed as one of the on your slide, restless leg syndrome that can keep you up at night. And I did suffer for 10 years until and I'm such a nerd that I research all side effects and then I correlate it with it. So 10 years later, I found that allergy medicines that we all take every day for the pollen and everything can cause it. And I mentioned, and I talked to my allergist and she actually didn't know. And I found that shocking. And so in her office, she was Googling it with me. I said, see, it's research. So in case, and now I've never had a problem ever since
So they change because it could be stimulating. Allergy medicine can have stimulants.
And I stopped and I had no longer have a problem. So I just shared that if anybody else has a problem with that and doesn't know, because my doctor didn't even know. So that's it.
That happens. That's good. Beth, thank you and good to see you. I noticed that Donna posted something here for meditation at noon on Fridays. Jeffrey.
What I was thinking, Todd, when you're talking to Todd about, changing the sleep time, about doing it in increments in order to allow your body, your sleep circadian to get reset. So often we have this notion of, oh my God, I got to go to bed and I need to adjust my bedtime by a half an hour or whatever. what I found with people is if you do it in small increments for a week, get reset on that time, and then the next week increase it another, maybe initiate sleep another 15 minutes earlier, get used to that so that it really gets established in your body. And also too, how daylight savings time
That's
throws
huge.
so many people with regards to their sleep.
We did. Thank you for bringing that up. Jeffrey is a licensed therapist as well, and was also in practice with me.
He uses my phone at night in bed, so you know.
And I've been married to him for 25 years. But yeah, you're right. Daylight saving times really does hit people more than we think. And we think an hour isn't going to make a difference, but it does. It really does. Todd, you asked a question and you wrote, what did Todd write? You wrote something. What about getting up and doing a jigsaw puzzle? I think it'd be stimulating. I think all of those sound, Todd, think about this, brain on or brain off? What puts the brain on? What puts the brain off? If I'm doing a puzzle, I'm entering my problem solving. I'm in the frontal cortex of my brain. So all of you are doing this lecture in the frontal cortex of your brain. That's where you solve problems.
Right.
So be I doing a jigsaw puzzle, I'm reading the Bible, I'm watching a film that I like. So I'm following the plot line. I'm watching one Netflix series after another, which I do. I'm hooked. Find something boring.
Anyway, turn that thing up.
So maybe like reading a boring book or something.
I would read the boring book. I would more look at a magazine without the words, because the words you're going to start interpreting in the front part of the cortex. Look at like a house and garden magazine, something that doesn't particularly interest you. Make sense?
Uh-huh. Okay.
But not in your bed.
Right.
Not in your bed. Get up and get out.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to try that.
If the book is boring, what's going to happen is you're going to put it down and start thinking about other things that you have to do. Like if I'm reading something boring, my mind will wander, but it will start to occupy itself. I'll think, okay, I got class tomorrow. What am I going to teach, right? So that's my fear of a boring book. Hopefully I hit your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Ariel. Executive functioning, we want to go to the back brain. We want to go to midbrain, not engage front brain. Good job. I just realized, Judy, please.
So audiobooks.
Good evening.
Hi, sorry. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Welcome.
Audiobooks. I mean, I find it relaxing. I listen to a chapter or two and I'm able to close it and fall asleep.
Well, I think these things are often subjective. What works for you?
Right.
Can I tell you what would happen if I listened to an audiobook to a chapter or two? I'd be on chapter 17 and getting up the next day because I can't turn it off. Can you relate to that at all?
Of course. I mean, I choose which audiobook I'm going to sleep on. So yes.
It works for you. What what you described that's implicit, that's really good, is discipline. You turn it off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I wouldn't. Literally the other night I'm watching Netflix. I'm like 4 a.m. I can do one more. I fantasized about Botox in my eyes. This is not healthy, right?
So I know this I'm sorry.
No,
so I know this might be I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Talk to me.
So this might be a stimulant, but I find that if I do wake up in the middle of the night and I don't want to take the book because I don't want to wake up, I just go and take a warm bath in the dark.
Brilliant.
In the dark, don't turn on any lights, go back to sleep, and then I get another 3-4 hours of sleep and I'm in dreamland.
That's great medicine. Warm baths are great medicine. I like to go in we're in Florida. We have hot tubs, a lot of us. I like to go in it every night because the warmth soothes us. It can lower our blood pressure. It transitions. It becomes a nice habit. Right? And I think you brought up something great, and that is what works for one person doesn't always work for another, right? I took a class not long ago on screen addiction, and we're all hooked on our screens. Yeah, especially think about this when you watch Netflix or something else. Next episode in 10 seconds, that's to hook you. It's a neurological technique, and it works, right? I see Donna giving me that look. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I was afraid I wouldn't have anything to say. I wish you all wonderful sleep tonight. I kind of feel like a radio talk show host on this, so it's kind of cool, and I like it. So please say goodnight to me in the chat because it was great connecting with all of you, and thank you for coming and all your participation. And I'll stay for a few moments just for any questions if it's okay.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, David. I think you hit something for everybody here, boy. And
Thank you.
Like Kayla said before, she put the link for the survey in there. Please take a moment, because what we do is what you ask us. So please, we're just about out now. We want to thank David for being with us and teaching us all something new and something we can do, giving us those tools so we can utilize strategies to improve our sleep habits. To everyone in the audience, thank you for spending part of your evening with us. It was fun. I hope you will join us again the next academic year. You can register on the website. We also put for our the meditation. Come and see what it's about and get some tools there for that. We always we register and it's Fridays at noon. So thank you again. Have a great rest of your evening, calm, relaxing, and a good night.